Hey everyone, central banks made a huge mistake in 2018 and they're going to continue to make it until they learn this one valuable lesson. Alright, let's go back to the start of 2018. The buzzword then among central bankers was global synchronized growth. The idea was that growth was going to pick up around the world. It was going to lift all boats. The Eurozone was going to pick up and eventually catch up to the United States. So what did central bankers do? Well, at the Fed, they hiked rates. At the Bank of Canada, they hiked rates. At some other global central banks, they started talking about hiking or in fact hiking at the same time. None of them really waited to see if this materialized. The reason they did that was because they wanted to get off of zero. Central banks are trying to hold and cultivate their power. And when they don't have the power to cut rates, they get nervous. They get nervous that they're going to have to use experimental policy. That risks a public backlash. It risks a government backlash. It risks taking their power away. So they try to push up rates artificially, and they continued to try to push that up. Now, the unintended consequences of that really started to hit hard around August. The Fed had been hiking, other central bankers had been hiking, and they started to talk about hiking more aggressively. The ECB announced an end to QE. The Bank of Canada said we're going to hike, and then they even talked about we're going to hike more aggressively. You know, the Fed was talking about hiking, and the dot plot was way out there. And what happened was that consumers and businesses said, wait a second, you guys are way ahead of us. We are levered up. We can't afford these higher interest rates. And if you're going to do this, we're going to stop spending. Businesses stopped investing. Consumers stopped spending. Everyone was worried about their mortgage rates going up, and businesses were worried about their borrowing rates going up. They were saying to central banks, stop doing this, but central banks said, listen, we're doing this anyway. And at the same time, you had Trump calling himself tariff man. Nobody knew what was going to happen there. And as businesses came into year end, they said, we're going to set our plans for next year, and it's not going to be about spending and investing like these central banks think. It's going to be about deleveraging, paying down debt. You saw consumers get away from buying cars because 0% loans weren't there anymore. You saw them slow down in housing, which was something that central banks didn't expect at all. And now we're in this situation where central banks think that by stopping hiking rates, they can put the genie back into the bottle. They say, you know what? We signaled we were going to 2.5%. We're going to stay at 1.75%. And consumers are just going to come back to us. You know, bond rates are back down. Consumers are going to behave like before. They're wrong. Consumers are retrenching. Those plans are made. What's happened is that the psychology of the market has changed. People are no longer thinking house prices are going to go up forever. And we're seeing in places where they were ultra high, like Australia and in Vancouver in Canada, they're coming down, and they're coming down faster than people thought. So consumers are now in this position where they're delevering. And businesses have been in that for a while. Now nobody is spending. And central banks think it's going to pick back up because rates have come back down. But what they're finding out very quickly is that it's not happening. Instead, this deleveraging has continued. So in the model version of the world, you know, if rates were here and then went up to here and then came back down to here, consumers will behave the same as they would have when they were here. But what the model doesn't understand is that this trip changes the psychology of consumers and businesses. They saw into the debt abyss and said, you know what, we might be borrowing at 200 basis points more than we thought we were. We're over leveraged already. We can't afford that. And this sensitivity, it can't be reversed. So central banks are still betting on that pickup and they're hanging on. But what they're going to find out is that things can get much worse from here. Now, if we get a China trade deal, if a lot of things start to happen, if governments start to spend money, yeah, that could be reversed. But right now what you're seeing is that we are in the last innings of very strong jobs growth, and that's going to start to turn. And businesses aren't going to invest. Instead, they may even retrench further. So it's all much worse than central banks expected, and this is only the start of the U-turn that they're about to embark on. So buckle up. This is going to get much worse from here. We'll see how it goes as the economic data progresses, but I expect it's going to get much worse from here. For Forex Live, I'm Adam Budd.